Haley, Family Therapy Session 1. The Johnson family enters the room. The therapist notices mom and the daughter sat on the same couch together, while dad sits separately with his arms crossed.
Hi, everyone. I'm so happy you could all make it in today. My name is Haley, and I'm going to be your family therapist. I would love to hear from each one of you today. So if you wouldn't mind introducing yourselves so I know who I'm meeting with.
I'll start. My name is Sarah, and I'm mom. This is my husband, Jared, and my daughter, Elizabeth.
Mom, it's so nice to meet you. I would love to hear from each member of the family. So if you could all introduce yourselves separately, that would be wonderful.
I'm Lizzie.
Lizzie, please look at Haley when she's speaking to you.
Jared, she's just shy. She'll talk when she's ready.
I'm Lizzie.
Lizzie, it's so nice to meet you. Thank you for being here today.
Okay, I'll go last. I'm Jared. I'm married to Sarah, and I'm Elizabeth's stepfather.
It's so nice to meet you all. Again, I'm happy you could make it in today for the initial meeting. Is everybody here today that lives at home?
Yep, three of us that.
Okay, great. So now that we all know each other, I would like to get started and discuss why we are all here today. I have a little bit of an idea from the initial phone call with mom, but I wanted the family to all come together so that we can each discuss why you think you're here, what you're hoping to get out of these sessions, and what changes you would like to see. Lizzie, do you know why you're here today?
I'm not sure. Mom didn't say.
Okay, Mom, in your opinion, what do you feel the problem is to be addressed here?
Well, I spoke a little bit on the phone with you about it, but I think that the problem is that my husband, Jared, and I are not on the stage with how to manage my daughter sometimes. And I feel like I'm in this completely alone. So it would be really nice to have some support sometimes. I don't think that that's really asking too much.
Jared, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think that my wife enables Elizabeth's behavior, and then I have to be the one to deal with her tantrums. You're always giving in to what she wants, and she doesn't get it. She just starts to throw things and then calls you names. I'm the one working all day long to support the family, and then you I have a sleeping problem at night, so I don't understand what it is that you want from me and why you can't just handle this before I get home.
Jared, would you mind moving closer to Mom and Lizzie? Thank you. So Jared, I hear you telling your family that you're not feeling appreciated for the support that you're providing for them. Mom, can you tell Jared how that makes you feel?
Yeah, Jared, I think that you're too hard on her. I know that you do a lot to provide the material stuff for the family, but emotionally, I don't feel as though you're ever there for us.
How? I'm not sure what you mean by that. I mean, can you just tell me how I'm too hard on her?
Well, she comes to you sometimes and you're just so negative, and it seems like you don't have any patience with her whatsoever. How do you think that makes her feel, especially everything she's been through with her father just passing away recently?
Before we go any further, let's get some ideas from Lizzie about the situation. Lizzie, did you want to share with your parents any problems you've been having?
I know that Lizzie's been having a tough time with everything that she's been through.
Okay, so Mom, why don't we give Lizzie a chance to share with the family how she's feeling about any problems in the house?
Mom and Dad or Jared usually fight when I'm in my room. They must be fighting because of me.
Okay, can you tell your parents how you're feeling?
Sad. I don't want them to keep fighting all the time.
Yeah, Mom and Jared, when you guys were discussing the problems with each other, Jared, you mentioned Elizabeth's tantrums. Can you share more with what Elizabeth's tantrums are like and how you both attempt to solve the problem?
Well, sometimes Elizabeth has a difficult time expressing how she's feeling, and she'll get upset and start throwing things. Sometimes she'll hit me names. She's such a sweet girl, though, and really, really thoughtful too.
I don't think Sarah does much in the moment because sometimes Elizabeth's outbursts can be really intense. So she'll end up waiting until I get home after I've worked all day. It's just getting exhausting. We're at a loss. We don't know how to handle it anymore.
I try to put her in timeout, but she never sits still long enough. She just keeps getting out of timeout every time I put her there. I just don't know what to do. It's starting to affect Jared and I's relationship with one another.
So what I'm hearing you say is that Elizabeth will get overstimulated, will throw tantrums, which include yelling, hitting, and name calling. This is handled with an attempt to put her in timeout, but due to feeling overstimulated, she is unable to complete the timeout. And then dad gets home and is immediately presented with the problem. Is this correct?
Roles will be changing, and Courtney is now the therapist.
All right, so I think this would be a great time to do a role play. Can we please have Elizabeth act out what a tantrum would look like? And then I'd like mom and dad to show me how you typically react. So what type of situation would create this behavior?
Like when I get mad? Like you want me to show you when I get mad?
So, usually, when I ask Lizzie to do something that she doesn't want to do, if she's watching TV or on the iPad and it's time to put it down, that's usually what causes a problem, or one of the things that causes a problem.
Okay. So Lizzie, what usually happens when mom takes the iPad or the TV away from you?
I get upset. Sometimes I yell at mom.
Okay. So in this role play, let's pretend that mom is taking away the iPad from you, Lizzie. And then let's play out how each of you would normally react to this situation. Are you guys ready to start?
Mhm.
Okay.
Lizzie, can I please have the iPad? It's time to get ready for bed.
No, I don't want to go to bed.
Lizzie, we don't hit.
I don't want to give it to you. You're stupid.
Takes the iPad.
No, mom.
You can't hit me and say things like that to your mother. Go sit in the corner. Wait until dad gets home. He won't be happy with you.
Okay, so Jared gets home.
Lizzie, can I please have the iPad? You can't talk to your mother like that, and you know that. Come on, let's go to the corner. You have 5 minutes.
Lizzie hands over the iPad. See, Elizabeth would normally listen to Jared, and she doesn't listen to me. So that's why I have to wait until he gets home.
But that shouldn't be the case, Sarah. You're the mother and you're home most of the time. I don't want to be responsible for disciplining her when I get home, when you're perfectly capable of telling her no. You just choose not to. This is why she acts the way that she does towards you. She knows that she can get away with anything if she just pushes you hard enough.
Now, I would like to clarify something with the family. Does it generally happen that fast? Does Lizzie usually say no once and refuse to give up the iPad and then refuses to go into timeout once, and that's when Sarah gives up? Or does Lizzie refuse multiple times and then Sarah gives up? I'm asking the whole family.
That's typically what happens when I'm home to witness it. She'll say no once, maybe 2 times, and then I'm left to discipline Lizzie. Occasionally, she'll tell her no multiple times. She's there, she's half disciplining her already. I just don't get why she can't give up and why I'm left to discipline her.
Because she doesn't listen to me, Jared. I try, but she just doesn't listen. And I know that if you tell her no, she'll listen to you. She always listens to you.
Sarah, that's only because you've created this, and it's easier for you if she just gives up and makes me the bad guy than actually putting in the work correcting her behaviors. It's not fair to me.
Okay, so I would like to thank you for sharing so openly with me and participating in the interactive experience. Both have given me a lot of insight into your family and where to go from here. What I would like you to do now is to talk to you about what each of you would hope to gain with your time with me. Jared, why don't you start?
I mean, I want Sarah to stick to what she says she's going to do with Lizzie and not give me such a hard time when I have to discipline her.
Okay, Jared, I'm going to interrupt you for a moment. I apologize. I noticed that you're looking at me. Can you address Sarah and tell her what you're hoping to gain in therapy?
Yeah. So, Sarah, I discipline her the way that I do because if I didn't, then Lizzie would just run the house. She needs structure and boundaries. She needs someone to tell her no, and you don't do any of those things. It's exhausting. I guess I want this to help us get on the same page. I've had a lot of resentment towards you because you push this out of me. You undermine me constantly. It's hard to live with. I want you to support me sometimes. It doesn't have to be all the time, but sometimes I would like your support. I feel like all the arguing about Lizzie just puts a wedge between us, and I want to get in a better place with you and us as a family.
Roles will be changing, and Jenny will be the therapist. Jared, thank you so much for sharing that. And Sarah, what are your thoughts on what Jared just said?
Wow. Jared, that was the most I think that you've ever opened up about any of this. I'm so sorry if you feel as though I don't support you. I feel awful about that. It's difficult to be the middle woman between you and Lizzie sometimes. And I guess sometimes I do side with her and give in to what she wants because I feel like you're being too hard on her at times. And I also feel like she's just been through a lot lately. And I try to lessen the blow in some ways, I guess. I know it's not always right. I know that I need to my guns, and I don't a lot of the time. I just want to get on the same page with you two. I want to be able to communicate with you about what works and what doesn't work without both of us just completely shutting down. It's not good for any of us. I want to support you more, but I also want you to try to understand Lizzie's disorder a little more so that you can understand that not all of her tantrums are because she's a brat. She has trouble expressing her emotions, and sometimes that comes across as her being a brat or her freaking out about nothing.
There's lots of great communication here. And you both are perfectly capable of communicating with one another, as you just demonstrated. Now, Lizzie, don't think I forgot about you. What do you hope to get from your time with me and your family here?
I don't know. I guess I just want mommy and daddy to be happy and not argue.
Well, that's a great goal to have. Is there anything else you want to add to
How much longer?
that? It's not too much longer, Lizzie. You've been very, very patient, and thank you for that. I just want to make sure that I get all the information I can so that way I can help you and your family as much as I can. So I appreciate your openness with one another. And just to make sure we're all working on the same goals here, I want to clarify what the three of you talked about in terms of what's important for you to work on going forward. So you all like to increase your communication between one another while minimizing the arguing, and especially in front of Lizzie. You would also like to build the family as a team so that you're all working together towards your goals and supporting one another rather than doing that on your own. And so, what that might look like is when Lizzie's having a tantrum and mom and dad coming to a mutual decision and how to handle that situation rather than dad being the one to just do the discipline and mom giving in and letting Lizzie get what she wants. That may also look like mom taking a little longer to get to a point where she doesn't give in, or dad continues to punish Lizzie how he sees fit, but being able to sit down and communicate the barriers to one another afterwards. For Lizzie, this may look like mom and dad talking to her about how she's feeling when she's having a tantrum. Progress can look like a variety of things, but the important thing is that the three of you are trying to work together on that progress. With that being said, I would like to discuss some tasks or homework assignments, whatever you'd like to call them, to work on for the next coming week. How do you all feel about that?
That sounds good to me.
Yeah, I'm open to trying anything at this point.
And you, Lizzie?
I have to do homework?
Well, not homework in the way that you're used to. It's more like little things that you'll work on throughout the week in order to make your whole family much stronger. How does that sound?
Well, that sounds good.
Excellent. Roles will be changing, and Stephanie will be the therapist, wrapping up session 1.
So I'm going to assign little tasks for each of you to do throughout the week. Sarah, we'll start with you. You're going to be setting boundaries with Lizzie throughout the week and sticking to those boundaries that you set. So if you'd like to start small and work up, that's perfectly acceptable. You'll try your best to not give in to Lizzie. And if you do, you'll write down the barriers that you encountered so that they can be shared and discussed in our session next week. How does that sound?
I mean, it sounds doable, but could you give me an example of what a boundary could look like?
Absolutely, of course. So let's say that he wants to stay up 30 minutes later. Jared have already talked about it. You guys have come to a decision on a bedtime for her. And you've reminded her of that bedtime. So you say to her, "No, Lizzie, I'm sorry, but bed is at 7:30. You know that." So if she starts to get loud and or whiny or naggy towards you, then you're going to reiterate that bedtime and let her know that it will not be changing no matter how many times she asks you guys. So it's important to stick with this boundary that you've set. And if for some reason, whatever that reason may be, you can't stick to that boundary, then please write down just like a short narrative for me as to why she was allowed to stay up later after you had already told her no the first time. And then we'll discuss it kind of in more detail during the next session. And then I'll be able your input, Jared's and Lizzie's.
Okay, great. Thank you. That definitely gives me a better idea of what I should be doing.
Okay, awesome. Now, Lizzie, we're going to move on to you. So your task this week is to listen to your mom, and when she tells you something, not do something, or when she says no to you, so any of those three things, you have to try your hardest to accept mom's first answer and not ask her again. All right. It's important that you try to use your words if you start to get upset rather than hitting her, punching her, yelling at her. Just try to calmly talk to her about it. Okay. And then if you're not able to listen to your mom and dad when they tell you something the first time, then they'll work with you afterwards to talk to you about some of the reasons why this didn't work for you and how you felt when you weren't getting what you want. Mom and dad should write these reasons down and we can discuss them during the next session. Do you think that's something that you'll be able to do, Lizzie?
Yeah, that sounds easy. I can do that.
Awesome attitude. I love it. Jared, your task for the week will be to be more empathetic towards Lizzie's disorder and communicate with Sarah about how you feel if she gives in to Lizzie during her tantrums. So, if you have to talk to mom a little bit more about her disorder, just to give yourself a little bit more background information, happens with children who have ADHD and learning disorders, that would be really great. Like even just sitting down with one another and talking about that. And then if you find that it's difficult to be more empathetic, and you still find yourself disciplining her in the same way. Um, and you're finding it difficult to communicate with mom about your own frustrations, then write those thoughts down, your frustrations, your thoughts, anything that you might be feeling, and address them with Sarah once the situation has calmed down a little bit.
All right. As long as these two are in, I'm all in. I can do that.
Fantastic. Also, one last task for the week, and this is a really, really important one. Sarah and Jared, you guys will refrain from arguing in front of Lily. And that doesn't just mean yelling at one another in front of her or yelling at one another when she's in the other room or whatever, the situation may be. It also means simply not disagreeing on how each of you handled a particular situation while you're in front of her. Because even though you aren't necessarily yelling or raising your voice, Lizzie can pick up on your body language and your vibes and your energy, and she'll be able to tell that you're arguing.
Yeah, I think that's important. I like that idea.
Yeah, I agree. Me too.
Me too.
All right, super. So just to kind of give you a little bit of an idea of why this is so important. So the purpose of these tasks that I assigned you are to increase your communication with one another and to determine what barriers are getting in the way of your growth as a family, because we obviously want you to grow and support one another and just ultimately like have a really great life with one another. So it's very important to go into these tasks with full commitment. And if it helps you to keep a journal for the family throughout the week, go for it. I definitely found journals very, very helpful, especially because sometimes when you're upset or angry, sad, any emotion really, we kind of tend to forget the different emotions that we're feeling in those moments. So by journaling, you're able to kind of go back and see what you were feeling in that really difficult moment. So I want to thank you, Liz, Jared, and Sarah, for sharing part of your family today. Let's schedule a session for next week, same day and time.
Yeah, that works for us. Thank you so much for all of your help today. We definitely will do our homework, right, Lizzie?
Right.
Thank you so much for your help.
It was my pleasure. See you all next week.
Minuchin Family Therapy, Session 1. Jenny will be the therapist. Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming today. Now that we have everybody in the same room, I would like to discuss everyone's perception of what's going on within the family, so we can all hear it together. Jared, how about we start with you?
Well, my wife and I don't agree on how to discipline Lizzie. My wife enables her behaviors, and I work all the time to support this family. And I have to come home and deal with Lizzie's tantrums and her disrespectful behaviors towards her mother. Lizzie gets very upset and then throws the temper tantrums. So I don't know.
Okay, well, thank you for sharing, Jared. But I have to say, this is my second time now meeting Lizzie, and so far she's been very quiet and very focused. And I think she's very nice.
Well, if she wants her mother's attention, or if her mother tries to take away one of her toys or tells her to do something, that's when she doesn't want to do it, and she'll have one of the tantrums for sure.
Okay, do it.
What?
Sarah, can you take away Lizzie's doll?
Don't say we didn't warn you.
No, mommy, stop. Give it back now. Mom, what the hell, Mom? Give it to me.
See? No, mommy wants to hold it for a second. Can you stop trying to pull it from me? Calm down, Lizzie.
Give it back.
Fine, just take it. You really need to relax. I only wanted it for a minute. Jeez.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Sarah, would you like to speak to that?
My husband just doesn't support me when it comes to handling Lizzie. I just feel like I'm alone in this situation because he doesn't understand her disabilities. He just thinks I spoil my daughter and that this causes her tantrums when I don't believe that to be the reason. It's not the reason. I don't think by asking for his support is asking too much. I mean, it's not like I'm asking for it all the time, just sometimes.
Every time Lizzie wants something and Sarah says no and continues to give in is when she throws a fit and not getting what she wants.
Jared, excuse me. Can you actually just talk to your wife when you're speaking about your feelings?
Okay. So, Sarah, you consistently cave every single time Lizzie has a tantrum, and that's not how it works. You don't teach kids by caving into their wants. I come home from long hours at work to calm the whole house down, and I'm getting tired of it.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that mom tries her best to de escalate behaviors in the home, but sometimes passes it on to you, Jared. It sounds like this is a stressor for you after working these long hours and then coming home to diffuse the situation. Before we move on and dive deeper into this, I would like to have Lizzie, in her own words, tell us her perceptions of the challenges that she's having at home. So, Lizzie, what would you like to change? Or is there something that happens when you're home, maybe, that you'd like to talk about?
Um, I know that my mom and dad fight a lot, and I wish that they would because I hate it.
Okay, can you tell us a little bit more about this fighting?
Yeah, um, it happens a lot. Mm, it feels like it happens every day.
Okay, so you feel like mommy and daddy argue every day. How do you feel when that happens or when this is happening?
I get scared and I get nervous. Sometimes when they get really angry, I get sent to my room by daddy.
Okay. Thank you for explaining how you feel when this happens. I know it can be really hard to talk about your feelings like this. And I can understand how you may get scared or nervous at times when mommy and daddy are yelling. And I think those are some great things that you'd want to change about your home. So good job sharing. Roles will be changing, and Courtney is now the therapist.
Okay, so I would like for all of us to take a break because, like I said, I wanted to make sure that we all got a chance to share our story. So, what I'm hearing is that there's a lot of fighting going on between Jared and Sarah that's happening in front of Lizzie about Lizzie's behaviors. Based on your perceptions of the problem, I do see, though, that there's a lot of love in the family in terms of just wanting the absolute best for Lizzie. On the other hand, the concern for her development for adaptive pro-social behaviors, and on the other hand, being considerate of her disabilities. So what I see here is a lot of miscommunication happening. There's some boundary crossing between the families. And what I'd like to address in these situations is working on the subsystems and the boundaries and learning the more appropriate ways to communicate with one another. So I'd like to hear from each of you what you'd like to accomplish in family therapy. Sarah?
So, I mean, I would like my husband and I to be on the same page. I feel like we're never on the same page. I always want something different than what he wants and vice versa. So that would be kind of my first goal, I guess. And I also want him to understand what disabilities my daughter has and be supportive of my decisions when it comes to disciplining her. I mean, I know that I'm not perfect and I definitely do things that he doesn't approve of. And I realize, after the fact that I really shouldn't be doing certain things because I'm just enforcing certain behaviors. So I do understand that, but I would like to be on the same page. I don't continue this constant battle between my husband and I.
Hmm. Okay. So it sounds like you would like you and your husband to be more cohesive with parenting Lizzie and to have more support of one another. So I'm hearing the goal for you and your husband. How do we incorporate Lizzie into this goal as well?
Well, for me, I think that Lizzie needs to learn how to be respectful and follow the rules a little bit better and to not throw these temper tantrums if things don't always go her way.
I don't know how many times I have to explain this, but Lizzie has ADHD and a learning disability. You can't just say, this is a rule, so now you have to follow it. It doesn't work that way for her. Her brain doesn't work that way. So Lizzie doesn't understand, and she has a difficult time controlling her emotions and processing certain information.
Okay. So Sarah, what are you hoping your family gets out of therapy that's including Lizzie?
Would like us to be able to live as a family, not argue all the time. I'd like us to have fun together and actually do the things families are supposed to do, because right now I just feel like all we do is argue. Like, especially when Jared gets home and I didn't discipline her right, or whatever the case may be, we're constantly fighting.
Mm.
So, and it's been a long time since we all just enjoyed each other's company without tantrums, fighting and yelling.
Mhm, mhm. Well, I appreciate you sharing that. I think we can absolutely work towards that goal. Jared, what about you? Do you feel the same way as Sarah, or are you hoping to like attain a different goal? What are your hopes from our therapy?
So as you know, I would like my wife to stop enabling our daughter and giving in when she does something bad. I want my wife to understand that I work hard to support our family financially and to at least take my opinion into consideration when it comes to Lizzie. Whatever she is doing now is obviously not working, and our arguing has just gotten worse over time. I love my wife and my daughter, and I want to make it work, but my wife doesn't see that when Lizzie and I are home together, she's fine and she listens to me. As soon as my wife walks in the door, Lizzie starts to act out, and I don't see why she blames Lizzie's behavior on her disability.
She does not act out every time I walk in the door.
It's not her disability that causes her not to listen when she's told not to do something, Sarah.
The roles will be changing, and Jill will be the therapist.
So I am hearing the differences of expectations and outcomes with each of your parenting styles with Lizzie. I want to include Lizzie in the discussion as well. Lizzie, can you think of what you would like to do with the family during our session?
I think it would be nice to be able to get along, maybe play some games together.
Yeah, so it sounds to me like you would want to do some more family time activities. Does that sound right?
Yes, I would love to play with mommy and daddy.
That's great feedback. Thank you, Lizzie. I just want to point out the admirable level of desire your family has to develop strong relationships. This is an important strength of your family that will be important to tap into when you're working through therapy to reach these goals that we have discussed. I'm pleased to hear some positive communication between the family. So the next thing I think we should do is to take a minute and have Lizzie and Sarah switch places. Just for a minute, would you mind switching spots with mom, Lizzie?
No, not at all. I don't mind when mommy sits next to daddy.
Okay, thank you for moving your seat, Lizzie. Periodically throughout our sessions, I may ask you guys to change seats so that we ensure a level of comfort between all members of the family. Does that make sense?
Yes, makes sense to me.
Okay, great. Now I will be guiding you through a role play intervention. I would like you to think about a challenge recently that came up between your family.
Would you like to start, Jared?
No, you can go.
All right. Let me think. Well, so last week my husband and I got into an argument because when he got home from work, he overheard Lizzie and I fighting because she wouldn't stop interrupting me while I was on the phone. I was talking to one of my girlfriends and she continued to disrupt my conversation because she wanted me to play dolls with her. So she was pulling on my pants. She was like yelling at me to pay attention to her. So I yelled at her and I told her to stop, and she continued. And then she got so angry that she ended up slapping me in the leg and was screaming at me at the top of her lungs. So I ended up hanging up on my girlfriend and I started yelling at Lizzie. And then my husband came home and we had this massive argument about it.
It sounded like that was an impactful argument. I would like for the two of you to act that experience out, and then we will reflect afterwards. So, Sarah, can you start right before Jared walked in the door, and then you both can continue the argument from there? Do you think you can do that?
Yes, I can start. Lizzie, don't put your hands on me.
What the hell is going on here? I just got home now and I have to deal with this shit show. When is this ever gonna end?
So before you go on, let's try this again. I'm sure you both did not talk to each other in your normal tone of voice like you are now. So why don't we start again, but reenact the situation as it happened the day that you were at home.
Lizzie, don't ever lay your hands on me.
What the hell is going on here? I just got home and now I have to mediate this shit show?
No one is asking you to help, Jared. I can handle my daughter, okay? Please relax.
What the hell happened, Sarah?
Lizzie was being rude and interrupting me while I was on the phone, all right? Asking me to play dolls, and I told her that after I was done, I would play dolls with her, and she just kept going. So I yelled at her to stop, and then she slapped me in the leg.
I don't know how many times I have to tell you to listen to me when I tell you I know how to handle her. She disrespects you and you continue letting her just get away with it. You better not be playing dolls with her tonight.
The roles will be changing, and Stephanie will be the therapist, wrapping up session 1.
So the argument stopped after that because after I said that, that's when I went in the room. I heard Lizzie slam her door and she was screaming.
I appreciate your role play efforts. Now, thinking back, Jared, what is something that you would change if you had a chance?
Well, I think if I had to change anything, maybe I would not immediately start yelling once I entered the house. Now I can see how my reaction might have escalated the situation even more.
Thank you for sharing. I appreciate that. Sarah, is there anything you would change or take back if you could?
Honestly, I shouldn't tell my husband that I can handle my daughter on my own. He does have a way with Lizzie, and apparently she responds to him better than she does to me. So, I mean, as soon as he came home and walked through the door, she just stopped and calmed down.
It's great to hear you acknowledging Jared's ability to help regulate Lizzie. Jared and Lizzie, could you please role play what the calming down looked like that night? Jared, I'll ask you to switch places with Sarah sitting next to Lizzie, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure, no problem.
Liz, Remember when we talked about playing a game with mommy and daddy?
Yeah.
How about you and daddy play a game where you act out what happened when daddy came into your room that day? Do you remember what happened?
Yeah, I remember that. I can do that.
Lizzie, start the role play when you slammed your door shut. Start with whatever it is you did after you shut your door.
Um,
It sounded just like that. But okay, so I went in and I'll start my role play now. So Lizzie, what is going on in here, sweetie? Come on, take some deep breaths for daddy. So I know you're angry, but I need you to try to relax. It's going to be okay. When you're calm, we'll talk about what happened.
I just wanted to spend time with mommy, but she was just on the phone and it fucking pisses me off.
Elizabeth Johnson, do not cuss in our house. You know the rules here and you need to follow them no matter how angry you are, right? Isn't that what we talked about?
Yes, Daddy, I'm sorry.
Okay, so tell me how you're feeling now using the right kind of language.
I was really mad because mommy didn't want to play with me.
Okay, so sweetie, we need you to stay patient and you need to learn to wait when mommy is done with her phone and she would have played with you. She loves to play with you. And sometimes we can't always get what we want right away, but if we're patient enough, it always works out in the end. Do you understand what I mean, sweetie?
Yeah, I understand, Daddy. I'm sorry. I will wait next time.
That was a great example of your communication practices. I heard Jared use validation and modeling to help with calming Lizzie down when she was really upset. And these are fantastic strategies to use within the home. Because dad does a great job with Lizzie, I would like mom to shadow him in times of de escalation. So when he's trying to bring Lizzie's behavior down, modeling his effective parenting skills. I think that'll be really helpful for mom.
Yeah, I think that would be good because she really responds well to him, and I have not been so lucky on my end. I guess I didn't realize how he was handling her until now.
I understand. Mom, I would like you to also practice positive discipline and de escalation strategies with the assistance of dad. Jared, do you think that you could do this?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see Sarah use have the successful interactions that I have with Lizzie. It would just make the house feel so much more peaceful.
I'm so glad to hear your eagerness to work on these skills. Also, I'd like to see more family interactions. So, this may look like family dinners or game nights, movie nights, anything that you guys can think of to spend more time with one another. So, whatever works for your family. And this must occur one time prior to our next session. Do we all agree?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Also, we can't neglect the spousal relationship. So I'd like to see you, the parents, spending more one on one time together. Do you think you can add in dates throughout the week or just a time during the day where you can debrief the week together?
Um, yeah, I think we could do this in the morning. I know Sarah likes to make me breakfast before I leave for work. So maybe we can make it a habit to eat breakfast together and talk then. Does that sound good?
I would really like that. Yeah.
That's great to hear. So you'll work on that throughout the week, and then we'll discuss how the week went in our next session. Does next week, same day, same time, work for the family?
That works for us.
Perfect. Well, I'll see you all then. Have a happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.